I don't think it's right for kids to grow up thinking these things, that just mom does everything.
Women are fighting greasy pots and pans.
And I said, wait a minute, how could somebody say that?
Rachel Meghan Markle was 11 years old when she discovered the injustice that comes with being born female.
This commercial came on with the tagline for this dishwashing liquid, and the tagline said, "Women all over America are fighting greasy pots and pans."
She was further let down when two boys in her class reiterated the message that a woman belonged in the kitchen.
I remember feeling shocked and angry and also just feeling so hurt. It just wasn't right, and something needed to be done.
Thomas Jefferson believed that to preserve the very foundations of our nation, we would need dramatic change from time to time. Well, my fellow Americans, this is our time. Let us embrace it.
It was 1993, and Bill Clinton had just taken office as the 42nd President of the United States. At the same time, his wife, Hillary Rodham Clinton, a high-flying corporate lawyer, became the most accomplished First Lady America had ever seen.
Anyone who knows my husband and knows me knows that we've been having this conversation about what should be done in this country for more than 20 years. He's the one who's elected. He's the one who has to make the final decision. But I care about what he does, and I care about what happens, and I want to participate.
So when a letter arrived at the White House from a young girl who was incensed by a certain sexist advertisement, the First Lady naturally wrote back with words of encouragement. Along with Hillary Clinton, Meghan wrote two other women, attorney Gloria Allred and journalist Linda Ellerby, both of whom replied with messages of support. But it wouldn't be long before Meghan saw the full effects of her activism.
And it was roughly a month later when the soap manufacturer, Procter & Gamble, changed the commercial for their Ivory Clear dishwashing liquid. They changed it from "Women all over America are fighting greasy pots and pans" to "People all over America." It was at that moment that I realized the magnitude of my actions. At the age of 11, I had created my small level of impact by standing up for equality.
She may be a princess, but being rescued by a prince was never an option for Meghan Markle. As a child, she understood it was up to her to create her own destiny. 2 decades on, she shared this lesson with the world during an address for the United Nations. It was a speech that put the Suits actress on the map, but its significance would take on an entirely new meaning just a few years later.
He's the spouse of a strong woman. That's the important thing. And I have to say, I wouldn't be surprised if Meghan Markle didn't find herself in politics. And I love the idea of Meghan Markle running for president against Ivanka Trump.
My biggest focus has been gender equality and women's rights, all starting from something that happened when I was really young. When I was 11 years old, there was a commercial that I found to be sexist, and I wrote these letters to have the commercial changed, and the commercial got changed. And that was this moment where my very opinionated little spirit was outspoken then, and that has, I think, carried with me for quite a long time. The Republican Party lost the female vote by 12 points. That's a huge number. And with as misogynistic as Trump is and so vocal about it, that's a huge chunk of it. You're not just voting for a woman if it's Hillary just because she's a woman, but certainly because Trump has made it easy to see that you don't really want that kind of world. I don't think there's anything negative about being a feminist.
What I will say on this question of Meghan involving herself in policy issues or questions of policy, it is this. Every time a member of the royal family has done so, it has usually ended badly.
How did a girl from California come to marry into the British royal family? What does this 21st century love story mean for a dynasty that's been around for more than 1,000 years? And who really is the Duchess of Sussex? This is The Windsors. I'm your host, Kerry Elstub. Episode 2, Part 1, A Hollywood Princess. In the summer of 1996, Meghan took a trip to Europe with her friend Nanaki Pretty. The pair visited Buckingham Palace, and like so many other excitable teens, They posed for a photo on the palace rails. Little did she know that 2 decades later, that backdrop would mean so much more than she could ever have imagined.
It was a not overly privileged life, but she certainly didn't want for anything. She was educated privately. She had a very good education.
That's Nine Honey's royal columnist, Victoria Arbiter.
Clearly showed early on that she was very smart. She was going to go places.
By the time Meghan was in high school, she'd already predicted one important part of her future.
Good day, young lady.
Good day, Mr. Wolf.
It was March 1997, and a 15-year-old Meghan put pen to paper. She wrote down a specific goal that one day she would attend the prestigious Northwestern University and eventually find her way onto Broadway. Her ambitions were printed in the program notes of her school production. Meghan was playing Little Red Riding Hood in Stephen Sondheim's musical Into the Woods.
Tender and fresh, not one lump. Hello, little girl.
Years later, Meghan would find herself in a different type of fairy tale.
I went to Northwestern University.
That's the big one.
Well, thanks. My parents were happy with the choice.
Yeah, no.
It's safe to say Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, a former lighting director, and mother, Doria Ragland, a social worker and yoga instructor, played an active role in Meghan's upbringing. At Northwestern, Meghan studied theatre and international studies, where she was a member of the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority. She lived in the residence hall, and her sorority sisters embraced her, except for some who claimed she was too assertive. On the whole, her college experience was positive. But she was the target of racism, something she would later open up about in an essay for Elle magazine. In the 2015 article, Meghan explained that it was her father who helped her find a voice as a mixed-race woman.
It's been so interesting to see this sort of fallout happen with her dad, because there's actually a lovely interview that Meghan did many years ago when she talked about the positive impact her father had made on her life. One story in particular that she shared that I think really spoke to how invested he was in raising his little girl and giving her every opportunity. And she said that she had been at school and she had found it struggle to identify as a biracial child. She didn't really know sort of what group she fit into. And lots of children struggle with issues like that. And there had been some form they had to fill out and there was a box and you had to tick whether you were Caucasian, African American, and there wasn't a box for her. And her father talked about the fact that she doesn't ever have to fit into a box, that there is no box for her because she was so unique and so special. And he bought her a family of Barbie dolls. He bought her a white family of Barbie dolls and he bought her an African-American family of Barbie dolls. And then he mixed them together. And I think he wanted her to know very early on that she was special, that there was nothing different about her. Because, of course, children don't want to be different, but that she should be celebrated and that her heritage should be celebrated. So I think it's been quite sad to sort of see this fallout much later in life, because she obviously did share a warm and loving relationship with her father.
Now people know me from Suits, but that is not what my whole life for the past 34 years has not been that. There's been struggles and challenges and my own battles with self-esteem, like being biracial, or for me, like having a sense of self that sometimes felt a little displaced. And so as opposed to turtling with that, to say, what can I do about this so I can find a place where I fit in, so I can find or shape the world around me so that even if I am not exactly able to check one specific box, that I can make my own box.
Meghan's commitment to equality would lead her to the US Embassy in Buenos Aires, where she completed an internship in her final year of university. It was here she began to seriously consider a career in politics. An exciting prospect for an ambitious 20-year-old who had just become the first person in her family to graduate from college, but not so much for a future Duchess.
The royals don't do politics. That is one of the things they're not supposed to do. They're not supposed to enter that arena. They have a position of power because they have these platforms to speak on.
That's royal correspondent Juliet Reardon, who travelled with Harry and Meghan during their most recent royal tour in October. As part of the royal media pack, Juliet was one of the select few who got to see the Duchess in action.
This tour was the first time we really got to know Meghan. We think we know her, of course, because we've seen her in Suits. A lot of people followed her website Teague before it was closed down, and we know that she's very into environmental causes. We know that she's been a UN ambassador for female empowerment around the world. We know she's visited India. We know that her mother has introduced her to a lot of humanitarian causes very early in her life. We didn't really know what she was like, though, and I think on this tour we got to know her very well, very quickly. She's very natural with people of all ages. You know, Prince Harry connects very much with kids. He loves the kids. Meghan, I think, connects very much with young women. She wants to share with them. She wants to help them. She wants to encourage them to be the best that they can be. And of course, she is a role model for that.
Many people, including Juliet, believe, like Harry, Meghan was somewhat of an outsider. A lot of actors often talk about their profession being a lonely existence. And for Meghan, who faced years of rejection and was constantly being overlooked for major roles, it was no different. She would often drive herself to audition after audition in her beat-up Ford Explorer Sport that, at one point, could only be entered through the boot because the doors wouldn't open. Meghan's calligraphy skills helped her pay the bills, and like most struggling actors, she was a hostess at a restaurant. That was until she landed the role of a determined paralegal on a new show called Suits.
Mike Ross? Hi. I'm Rachel Zane. I'll be giving you your orientation.
Wow, you're pretty.
Good. You've hit on me. We can get it out of the way that I'm not interested.
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't hitting on you.
Trust me. I've given dozens of these, and without fail, whatever new hotshot it is thinks that because I'm just a paralegal, that I will somehow be blown away by his dazzling degree. Let me assure you, I won't.
It was the break she'd been waiting for, and a new chapter for Meghan. After filming 4 other pilots that never saw the light of day, finally, this one was it. But that's not the only life-changing thing that happened to her that year. On the 10th of September 2011, Meghan married her long-term boyfriend, actor and producer Trevor Engelson, at a luxurious beachside resort in Jamaica. The couple wrote their own vows, and her longtime childhood friend, Nanaki Pretty, who posed with Meghan all those years ago outside Buckingham Palace, served as her maid of honour.
So right now, she plays a sexy yet serious Rachel Zane on USA's hit legal drama Suits, and one of my favorite shows, but she's also a good friend of mine. Now, welcome to the show, Meghan Markle!
Suits would see her move from LA to Toronto, a place she would call home for the next 6 years. Los Angeles-based Trevor would travel to see Meghan every few weeks. But as her career took off, her marriage broke down. 18 months later, the couple divorced, citing irreconcilable differences. At the time, the split didn't make the news, but it would make headlines around the world in just a few years' time.
If Meghan Markle thought her life before meeting Prince Harry was behind her, she's in for a shock.
Royal biographer Andrew Morton would later report Meghan posted her wedding and engagement rings back to Trevor. According to Morton, the package arrived out of the blue shortly after they ended their marriage.
We knew she had been married before. We knew the marriage ended abruptly.
US entertainment reporter Sam Rubin.
A detail like mailing back a ring, that's not so horrible. People have mailed back rings before. It's not like she threw the rings down the drain or something.
Hi there. This podcast is a production of 9Honey, Australia's leading women's network. Almost 3 million Australians go to the 9Honey website each month. It's part of 9.com.au, your go-to destination for fast, free news. If you're interested in premium content and support gender equality, sign up to Future Women for as little as $7 a month at futurewomen.com.
Do people recognize you on the street now?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
The game has changed.
Heartwarming. What's that like?
The word for it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's so flattering. It's so lovely. And at the same time, I think it's the eye-opener that our lives have really changed, you know, to go from having some anonymity to now the privacy is gone. But it's great that the show is so successful, and that's part of what comes with it.
With a starring role on an award-winning show, Meghan's star power was on the rise. She began dating celebrity chef Corey Vitiello, and launched her own lifestyle blog, The Tig.
The name The Tig comes from a wine called, it's actually pronounced Tignanello, but everyone says Tignanello,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I had a sip of this wine one day.
I was married in Tuscany. I'm a friend of this wine. Yes.
But I had a sip of it, and this was maybe like 6-7 years ago, and I went, oh,
it's a game changer.
This is what people are talking about when they talk about the wine or body, like the structure that you find in wine. And I said, it's such an aha moment. It's a Tig moment. That nickname became what translated for me for like, oh, I get it. It's mine.
In a 2014 blog post, Meghan hinted at the relationship with Corey when she wrote a review of his Toronto restaurant, The Harbour Room. Meghan, a self-confessed foodie with a penchant for hot sauce, gushed about the restaurant's much-lauded burger and killer cocktails. That summer, Meghan and Corey began an intense relationship, with many of their inner circle believing they were headed for the altar.
Hit legal drama Suits is back.
I think there's something with any character that you play, you just want to find something that you connect to about them and you don't have a judgment about it. But I happen to really love Rachel. I love how ambitious she is and savvy, and she's sort of become someone that I could see as a friend, which makes it a lot sweeter to play.
Toronto had become Meghan's adopted home. She was deeply in love, and her blog was garnering fans all around the world. Then, on July 4, she wrote a think piece on self-worth that led to an eye-opening email.
4 days later, I got an email from one of the highest executives for UN Women saying they wanted to work with me. I thought it was a joke. I was like, the United Nations wants to work with me because I wrote this thing on my blog? People hadn't realized, especially at that time when I first started it, any of those emails, this is not the case now. So like, hello at the TIG, press at the TIG, they'd all come to my phone, right? So I'm sitting there fielding all these emails. Again, this is not the case now, so please. But it's, and I would get these emails, and I saw that one, and I responded immediately and had a conference call with them, and I said, look, I have a 1-week break from filming. Can I come and intern at UN headquarters in New York? And there was this incredibly long pause on the phone, because I don't think anyone had ever asked if they could come and intern at UN headquarters. And I was like, right, but I'm not filming and I've got time and I'll get your coffee. I just want to sit in on meetings. And they ended up getting me the clearance, and they said, yes, that's what I did for my hiatus.
Her internship would take her to Africa.
So I started working with them, went to Rwanda for a field mission to meet with female parliamentarians in Rwanda. It's an incredible country which has the highest percentage of female parliamentarians of any government in the world. 64% of their Congress is female, which is amazing. And so I did that trip with them, and then it just continued to open so many doors. And I think, any sort of speaking engagements I've done about women's rights has really come from that moment initially.
Her work with UN Women would lead to a collaboration with World Vision. And soon, Meghan was becoming known for her humanitarian work, just as much as she was for her popular character, Rachel Zane, on Suits.
Suitors, it has all come down to this. Will Mike be found innocent or guilty?
Find out on the season finale of Suits tonight at 10/9 Central.
As the show went into its 6th season, Rachel Zane's world as she knew it was turned upside down.
Meghan Markle stars as Rachel, whose fiancé was just sent to prison.
Off-screen, Meghan was facing a crossroads of her own when her relationship with Corey came to an end. Hi there. I hope you're enjoying this episode on Meghan Markle. If you want more exclusive clips, join our closed Facebook group, The Windsors. It was late June 2016, and Meghan was a bona fide Hollywood TV star when she boarded a flight to London for the Wimbledon Tennis Championships. She was there to cheer on her good friend Serena Williams, who would go on to defend her women's singles title against Germany's Angelique Kerber. Leighton Hewitt took a wildcard entry in the men's doubles and announced it would be his last professional tournament. But Meghan wasn't just in town for the tennis. You see, she had agreed to a blind date at London's exclusive Soho house. All she knew of this mystery man was that he was kind, but she would quickly learn the significance of his royal blood.
Harry probably would have been quite nervous on that initial date.
I'd never watched Suits, I'd never heard of Meghan before, and I was beautifully surprised when I walked into that room and saw her, and there she was sitting there. I was like, okay, well, I really have to up my game. I have to sit down and and make sure I've got a good chat.
Harry is an incredibly charismatic man. There's no two ways about it. When you meet him, he's so full of fun. He's so engaged. He's so normal and natural, actually. I'm sure that Meghan saw a lot of that in him when she first met him. I think there's also a sense of vulnerability about Harry that you really want to wrap him up and be supportive of him.
Meghan says that, of course, she was aware of the royal family, but didn't really know the inner workings. She didn't really understand the intricacies. It would have been hard to miss commentary on Prince Harry because it hadn't been too long before that he'd been up to all kinds of shenanigans in Vegas. But I think she was busy working. She's not a gossipy person, so she wasn't paying attention to all that other stuff. So they kind of started this blind date on a pretty even field. Both of them successful in their own rights. But really, I suppose what would have come to the forefront is their shared interest in philanthropy, in making a difference. These are two people that really want to use their platforms to do good in the world without sounding sanctimonious and, a bit icky. But that's where they really bond. And they're both driven by that need to do things for other people.
The first date was quickly followed by a second. And by the third date, Harry had invited Meghan to join him on a trip to his favourite place in the world, which also happened to be a special place for Meghan.
Harry said he whisked her off to Botswana and they got to know each other in a tent under the stars. Oh, it's so romantic, isn't it? How can you not fall in love in that environment?
Fall in love they did.
Meghan and Harry both felt a little bit like outsiders in their worlds, and together have found this new world and have made a very special world for each other.
Meghan had been married before. She had a very well-adjusted head on her shoulders, should we say. She probably wasn't drawn in by the celebrity in quite the same way. And having been brought up in another country, she was aware of the royal family, but they weren't part of her daily lives in the way they are for any young British girl that would have grown up watching Prince Harry. So they really had an opportunity to just get to know each other without any of the other baggage that comes along with it.
And somehow they managed to hide their relationship from all of us for months, until the story broke in October of 2016.
This morning, we're learning more about how the palace's newest royal couple kept their relationship undercover for so long.
Frantic calls from royal aides confirmed to Prince Harry, who was in Toronto with Meghan at the time, that their secret was out.
A British tabloid called the Daily Express reports that the prince is secretly dating Meghan, and there might just be proof to back the claim.
With their rumoured romance under siege from the press, Meghan's Instagram account was diligently studied for any hints of her prince. Soon it was discovered that in one of her posts, she was wearing a blue and white beaded bracelet, identical to one that Harry wore. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably obsessed with the royal family like I am. That's good news, though. You can stay up to date on all things Harry, Meghan and the rest of the royals at 9honey.com.au. And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter.
Prince Harry and Meghan's relationship is a fairy tale. It's a whirlwind romance, a blind date that's led her to the doorstep of the royal family. I mean, that's Hollywood.
This was different, I think, to anything he'd experienced before. And Harry was clearly keen to make this one work. But I think Meghan and Harry, more than any other couple in the royal family, really reflect what is happening in our society.
In Meghan, I think he found someone who, together with him, saw an opportunity, not a problem. Saw that in marrying Harry, not only was she, marrying a man she was sort of clearly deeply in love with, but she was able to enter a whole new phase of her life where she could use this newfound platform for good. And she could travel around the world with Harry and really make a difference. And I think you can see that spark between them is not just a spark of love and passion, but it's also a spark of, gosh, what can we do? We are really going to make a difference.
I don't just want to show up somewhere and wave my hand and feel like that's enough. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm going to have my name attached to it or I'm going to do it, I really get very hands-on.
By November, Meghan had asked her bosses at Suits for a break from filming. She had planned a trip to London to see Prince Harry. But a media storm was brewing. The British tabloids began publishing cruel and demeaning articles about Meghan, highlighting the fact that she was a mixed-race woman and a divorcee, and publishing pictures of racy acting scenes she'd done in the past.
Do you have an energy drink or something? Come on, we were up all night.
You kept me up all night.
You kept me up all night.
It is a whole new world for her, most definitely. And I think she is going to have her private life in public in a way that she has never, ever seen before.
But Harry, eager to protect his girlfriend and shield their relationship from the media, decided enough was enough. And on November 8th, 2016, Kensington Palace released a powerfully worded statement.
The famously private royal issued a detailed public statement ripping into the press over their treatment of Meghan Markle.
Kensington Palace released a statement on behalf of the royal slamming the press for its treatment of his now announced new girlfriend. Some experts are claiming it's a sign that he is very serious about her.
The statement, unsurprisingly, further fueled the media storm, and it highlighted the prince's distaste for the media's interest in his private life. A few months later, Meghan shut down her beloved website, The Tig. It was the first of many steps the couple would take to protect and control the privacy of their relationship. Next time, the fairy tale proposal and how Harry ensured his late mother played a role.
Not being able to meet his mom, it's so important to me to know that she's a part of this with us.
How Meghan's family almost derailed her wedding.
For Meghan Markle, the last-minute preparations have been far from smooth sailing, with the bride-to-be's family still wreaking havoc.
And her sister continued to be a thorn in her side.
There's something in this country known as freedom of speech. She doesn't have a copyright on that, and she's not going to tell me that I can't speak.
Plus, the secret tribute Meghan gave Harry on their big day. This podcast was written by Julia Norton, voiced by me, Kerry Elstub, and produced by Dan McHugh. Our thanks to Juliette Reedon, the author of The Royals in Australia and editor-at-large of the Australian Women's Weekly. And thanks to Victoria Arbiter, Nine Honey's royal columnist and author of Queen Elizabeth II for Pocket Giants. This podcast is proudly supported by Future Women, a club dedicated to the advancement of women through quality journalism, community and events. If you enjoy this podcast, then please take a moment to rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.